Want to win this Pharrell Williams Lego set? It's pretty cool. Here's how you do it.
All right, you're going to go to our social media. You're going to go to the website. The link is going to be there for you to enter, and it's going to make you have to follow us on Instagram, subscribe, things like that. Lots of entries, lots of ways you can enter, and then we're going to select someone from those entries, and you can win this amazing Lego set. So just follow the instructions.
We will draw a winner on Halloween, and we'll let you know via social if you've won. We'll reach out to you directly, of course, if you've won. We cannot wait to give this bad boy away. $110 just for you.
Happy Halloween.
We're talking about the incredible music documentary done the Pharrell way.
Hey, Pharrell.
Hey, how you doing, man? You know, it'd be cool is if we told my story with Lego pieces.
Seriously?
Piece by piece, the Lego documentary you never knew you needed. And we have the big question today, which is, tell us a music artist that after you watched a documentary about them, you had a greater appreciation for them and maybe even became a big fan.
Pick one. Don't cheat and pick like 7. One.
You must choose. There can only be one. It's like Highlander. I was just so much more delighted than I thought I was going to be. I was so excited about this movie. All year, I've been waiting for this movie. And I thought, well, it's not going to be as good as I think. Maybe it won't. It was better. That's my initial take.
Wow. Okay.
This movie, this Lego movie, this documentary, brought to light Pharrell Williams' contributions to music more for me. Obviously, know who he is, know he's performed, but even then, you think back to the 90s, that I didn't have as much knowledge of who he had worked with and more of his story. And yes, it's in Lego form, but you still get at least a knowledge and understanding of what he's done for music. And it's so much in the back end, right? You don't hear about production as much, but producers, especially in hip hop, right? Huge impact on the industry.
Yep.
Huge impact. So many artists wouldn't be where they are without having an incredible producer, especially in hip hop. We see now more in pop.
Yeah,
and everything too.
But it definitely started in hip hop.
Absolutely.
There'd be somebody on fire that everybody had to work with.
Yes. And so the movie accomplished its goal of exposing me more to Pharrell Williams and the people that he's worked with. And it was just a really neat format for it too, because in the audio, I can hear that this is a sit-down interview. Like, this is an interview taking place, and they are animating the interview, animating the stories that are taking place in the interview and how it's being told. And I thought that was a really neat take on it, because I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't do much research in a good way, that I wanted to be surprised on what I saw. So I was pleasantly surprised that it was the story being told through animation, but the documentary part still exists. Like, the audio, those interviews exist. They just animated the stories, and I really appreciated that, because I was curious if it was going to be like a Lego movie. Like, it was going to be a movie, not a documentary, not an interview style type of thing. Pleasantly surprised with the way this came out. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the musical takes on it. I was just tapping my foot. My body was moving. I was just enjoying myself the whole time watching it.
Excellent.
The best part of this whole thing is you can take off the Lego aesthetic, remove it all, and just give me the sit-down interview style documentary to camera or interview or whatever style you want documentary on Netflix. I would still absolutely love this. That's how good it is. Piece by piece, highly recommend it.
All right, let's get into the meat of Piece by Piece. There's a lot in this movie. Like, if you had to give out a bouquet of flowers to just like one person or department that made this movie, where would you give it first?
Hold on, you guys got it.
The PG spray.
Come on, okay.
So you're giving it to whoever came up with the PG spray reference and definitely like leaned into it.
It's beautiful. I responded to every part, of course, because again, amateur hip hop historian. I knew most of the acts that were interviewed. I think there was only like 2 that I really weren't overly familiar with. So that was really nice. But the whole Snoop Dogg part was not only funny and charismatic and all those wonderful things you expect from Snoop Dogg, but everybody in the audience responded to that. Mm-hmm. Not just the PG spray, although that was, I mean, cherry on top, really? Amazing, yes. But the fact that, you know, he's talking about he had 6 Crips behind him. And then he's talking about how you made me smile and the way they animated that. And it was just, and the way he talks about, he's like, oh, I wanted to see, he's trying to pick up. Who'd you call him, Pharrell? Yeah, I want to see what he wanted me to lie about. Like those kinds of, like all those different things, like the whole part, it was so funny. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's Snoop Dogg. Because again, I did not know, as much as I'm a hip hop historian, I did not know that was his first #1 single ever. I didn't know that. I just assumed that he had 10 or 12 before that. Right. Because I've been listening to him since 1992. So, yeah, it's just the Snoop Dogg part and the PG spread.
Just major props to go over and commitment to the bit.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Bringing his own spray.
Thank you.
That was great.
I couldn't bring water because we have equipment around here. So I had to go with Febreze, no free ads. And I had to cover it with PG spray.
Frankly, we could always use it. Febreze me.
In my face.
Didn't even get the worst view. Sorry about that.
Who do you hand the flowers to, after the showing of this documentary piece by piece?
Doing it this way is going to make the story come alive and show color in a way that just a sit down would not do. So just overall, that's why I appreciate it, because it's not foreshadowing. It was basically they're saying, here's what we're going to tell the story in the way that we need to tell the story to make it be better, make you appreciate things. So I feel like I learned more and I paid more attention this way than I would in a typical documentary. It made me pay attention because I was just always curious in how they were going to animate this story to make it intriguing.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Jim? What's your bachelorette flower?
I would give the rose to really to the animators, because what they did was they took a guy who is an artist and then is also a really successful music artist, because he's just an artist in general.
Yeah.
Okay. That's his spirit. And, what the animators were able to do doing this Lego style, which is like, I thought it was a great idea before I saw the movie, but then when you see the movie, you really understand this guy, he sees in colors. He thinks of things that nobody else think of. He spends his time in his mind in ways that we could never even, it's a special person. So how do you portray that with just regular film? I don't know how. The only way you could do it is with Legos. So like they just made that imagination that he has come to life and give us like almost a peek inside. I compared it a little bit to, as we start to understand the genius in a beautiful mind, with Russell Crowe, you get a peek at what that unbelievable fountain of creativity is when you see those fantastic sequences with, especially the imagination stuff.
Chad Hugo is not a voice in the movie, like as himself.
Really?
Because they're not on speaking terms, apparently. Did you know that?
No, did not know it.
I learned that right now when you just told me.
Did not know it.
Based on an article in People from September of this year. So just a month
That's
ago.
pretty accurate then.
Yeah.
There was a lawsuit between the two and everything too, which obviously happens between creators quite often. Things like that happen, but apparently not on speaking terms based on this article, right? Does that affect the movie at all? And do you think that everything was portrayed in the better way, especially because it is considered a documentary, right? Did they do justice to Chad Hugo? Is there anything that should be changed because of that? Or did they just not want to dive into any of the other drama that could be with their relationship? Just putting it out there.
I'll go first. I'll say that, first of all, I thought, again, I just learned this just now, so I thought it was him. But I love the fact, it was, in retrospect, right? It was so positive about him. There was never any kind, like, yeah, they broke up, whatever, but there wasn't any kind of,
you're right.
He was talking down. Yeah, digs. There was no talking down at anybody. It was like, we bonded over this. We had created it. We launched this career together, and it was. I thought it was very positive.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You'd never know that there was a problem between these two, and if you're Chad Hugo, you can't complain. You know what I mean? Everything about this movie may not be exactly the way he remembers it or would like to remember it or the way it was, but you have to say, like, wow, he didn't do me dirty. This is good.
No, he did not.
even though, I mean, we're going to call this a Pharrell Williams piece, I don't want to discredit anything that director Morgan Neville, who seems to be like a super huge reason this actually exists.
Right.
But what we see in this film, because it always depends on if the person who's being portrayed in the film is in control of the film.
Yes, it does.
You know, so you have to say he does have control of the film, but in the way that he has this philosophy of life of positivity.
Yeah.
It is done with positivity. So yes, they don't focus as much on the problems he had with his wife, or eventually becoming his wife, and the Chad Hugo part of it that I didn't know about.
And we didn't get the blurred lines thing either.
I did notice that.
That was in the film.
It was so subtly represented that you could completely miss it. I was wondering what they were going to do.
Yeah, I was curious if it was going to be addressed at all, because that was when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Huge music news. I mean, you have Marvin Gaye's estate.
Yes.
And then Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams involved in this whole thing. That was big music industry news.
It was.
So, I'm not dogging the movies, just stories, right?
No, sure.
It's
Sure.
curious what's
It reinforces your point about it's not gospel.
Right. But as a movie,
yes. Which is what we're here
in a
to judge.
documentary,
Yes.
very well done, very well portrayed. I really, really enjoyed it. But I'm just bringing this to light because I think other people will, and that could be a knock by some people. It's like, well, I really wanted to touch on this and this and this. Well, he's one of the producers. He decides what gets to go in it as well, too.
Right.
It's a biography and a documentary.
All right, let's see what we've just been talking about, how that turns into a numerical grade for Piece by Piece. Let's get an opening score from Jeremy Gover.
Again, if you take the Lego aesthetic away and you just give me the documentary part of it, right? I still freaking love this thing. It's so great. It talks about the history of essentially R&B and hip hop from 1992, 3-ish on, really, with Teddy Riley's, involvement and all those things. Talk about Rex and Effect, which I remember buying the cassette single too. I wish I still had it.
The single.
Yes, and the fact that Pharrell was a songwriter on that is pretty great. So all really, really cool. I had no idea that he did the McDonald's jingle. No clue that was him. You can hear it now almost, though. When you see this whole film, you're like, okay. But I didn't know he did that. I didn't know he did No Doubt's Hella Good. I've been bumping that song since it came out, and I was like, this, and I remember, it's so weird. When it came out, I remember thinking, this doesn't sound like something a band would do.
Right.
Especially that kind of band.
Go figure.
That's kind of like half ska, half, so
a radical departure from previous work.
And I was like, oh, all right, they're turning into pop. I mean, whatever. Turning into pop, that's why pop rock bands are everywhere. That's fine. But I remember noticing it, and little did I know it was a Pharrell thing, right? So it was really cool to be able to go back to all those little pinpoints in my childhood, my lifetime, my growing up period, where I can go, okay, this is all Pharrell, right? All that's awesome. I am extremely thankful that they took a Lego route, not because it's Lego, but because by going Lego and making it unique like this, it goes into the theaters. And because it goes into the theaters, I mean, I'm just going to guess here, 75, 80% more people are going to see it than if it was just a Netflix documentary on Pharrell. And I appreciate that.
And we can vote for it if we want to.
That's correct. But for me, this is a story that deserves to be told. It is a ridiculously inspiring story. Every kid who grows up in the projects or in the ghetto or in some sort of harsh environment, it should be required viewing. It's so good. So it especially speaks to them that they can do anything. And it's so amazing and so inspiring. I have to say thank you to whoever decided to make this a Lego movie, because, again, by doing that, it goes into the theaters, and 75 to 80% more people than would normally see it are going to be exposed to it. And that is its biggest triumph. I give it an 8.5.
Very good. Justin Bradford.
Well, this is how you know Gover really enjoys something, because he spoke for like 3 minutes during scores.
There was passion there.
That doesn't typically
Less
happen.
than usual, or is that?
Oh, that's way more than usual.
Oh, okay. Good, because I typically find myself rambling on about.
No. When it comes to scores, you're like, here are my problems and here's my score.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, not that we looked at each other and said, should we stop him? We were all like, no, keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
he's going.
You do it, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So, now, what I appreciate is that it exposed me to more that I didn't understand that Pharrell Williams was a part of. What I really liked was when basically you take the viewfinder moment or the viewmaster moment in the studio when it's flipping to another artist and another artist and another artist and another artist and going, he worked with all those people. Like, we know some of the major ones that have been top hits on pop radio, right? There's some that I'm sure plenty weren't. Especially when you just have all the different beats and everything, too. That
Busta Rhymes hit, I don't think was a single.
Yeah. So, but it just shows the perspective of here's all the people that he has worked with. Like
the tendrils going out.
I think most mainstream people know him for the few songs that he's performed on, right? I mean, his collaboration with Daft Punk.
Happy.
Was Robin Thicke and everything like that. There's a few of those where people are like, oh, that's Pharrell. And that's all they know. Because honestly, I didn't realize he's in his 50s.
Right.
I just, for some reason, thought he was just still like in his like low 40s, maybe. I thought he was younger. And then it goes all the way back to Rex, in effect. I'm going, oh, this man is like Gen X.
Yeah.
Full-fledged.
Oh, yeah.
He was a senior in high school when Teddy Riley discovered him. And then you figure a few months probably went by for him to for Teddy to be in the studio trying to get that lyric out. I go, okay, well, then he's probably 3 or 4 years older than me. So I guessed around 50. But but before that, I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. And a lot of that is because most of his career, he was not a household name.
That's right.
He was behind the scenes. He was producing. He was giving beats and everything. So really open minds to that. I also appreciate how, like we say during, you're getting one viewpoint, that he did address some of the where he was getting away from his true vision and his center because he was listening to marketing people and other people like that. They got away from
woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yeah, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. He was getting away from what his true vision was and what he needed to do for music, and addressing that as well too. How it took him away from his relationships, took him away from his friends. He put himself on an island and everything too. So I like that was addressed and what brought him back to it as well too. That was important because that was the bridge basically in the movie, right? Is you needed to have that moment. So it's not just all happy, 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 happy. If there's someone telling a story, you have to overcome a challenge more than when you were a kid.
For people of a certain age who watched VH1 Behind the Music. Okay. I mean, it's one of the big memes, which is, but when we come back, their career comes crashing down. You know what I mean? Like, there's always got to be, but when we come back, it's just, so you knew the movie for dramatic purposes had to show where he went, what was his most difficult thing to overcome.
Right.
As an adult.
And then,
as an adult.
And then near the end where they're coming back and he's realizing his self-worth even more too into community because they touch on what happened during the pandemic. They touch on George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. They touch on so many things that affect him as an artist and affect music because music is affected by what happens in politics and our everyday lives, what happens in society. Music is affected by that and how people want to tell their story.
Yep.
They touch on that. And granted, you're doing all this in hour 40, hour 30, something like that. Very short, limited amount of time, but the fact they're able to tell a whole story throughout that, I really do appreciate for the purpose of everyone deciding to make this Lego, telling a story, recording it because you have the interview as a credit, a voice credit, right? Taking a sit-down interview and turning that into a Lego movie is just... to me, like it's never been done like this before. It is absolutely a brilliant take on this.
Especially what I failed to say this, so it's a perfect segue. Is when they take the archived recording, like on a tape from the former Vibe editor, right? And they distorted the audio to make sure the audience knows that this isn't right now.
Right.
This is actually we're sitting at a diner at a coffee table or whatever, and those little things like that were really cool. When he calls the guy that would be his manager, they distort his voice like he's on the phone. It's just little, even though he's telling the story, those little things like that, those are directorial triumphs as well.
Absolutely.
And I totally forgot to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So for all that, because that takes a lot of thought process and a lot of just commitment to making this a good documentary piece that is in Lego form, I give it an 8.0.
Very good. This movie was made in the same way that they portrayed Pharrell as an artist. So, even when you learn about his story and how he was a different kid and how he was able to find, his people that he could connect with creatively and then find like his voice, his vision, to do that and to do it with Legos, it just, to me, they are so rightly aligned because he's just this out there. He seems to know what an audience wants before they know what they want, and he hands it to them ripped out of creativity world. And to me, how do you show that? Well, I guess you could do it with finger paints or Legos. And Legos was brilliant because we know the people that have made these Lego movies only keep getting better and better. They're good storytelling. They're great. They shouldn't be seen as a child's thing. I just thought it was terrific. I do love the relentless positivity that is Pharrell and is this movie. Yes, they could have gone a little more with some of the darker things, but I really wasn't looking for this to be like the piece of historical evidence of what was going on with all these people. It's not fact. It's an artistic take on his life. So I don't take much off for it being maybe not completely the whole picture. I thought it was brilliant. I thought every decision they made in this movie just rocked it, and I gave it an 8.5.
One thing at the end of the credits, did you guys stay to the end of the credits? The screening I did not, but when I took my wife and kid to see it, I stayed for the whole thing because I was like, maybe there's something at the end, whatever. And the only thing I wanted to bring up here is at the end credits, it says not all of this movie is factual, and then it said Pharrell has never been to space.
It was a great joke.
It's like Fantastic. A way to say,
right,
Chad was not speaking for Chad. Right. Some of these things may be a little bit, they might be accurate.
Right.
But we're going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a Pharrell Williams lens.
Yeah.
And don't forget, by watching this episode, you have a chance to win this Pharrell Williams Lego set, Over the Moon, $110 value. How do they do that?
You're just going to want to follow us. You got to follow the link. And you're going to make all your entries happen to just boost up your entries. So you're going to follow us. You're going to subscribe. You're going to like. You're going to interact.
You want this. It's really cool.
But now, they want the big question.
They do want the big question. Like, get to it. I want to win that, but what is it? So this is the question that we will answer ourselves, but it's only the beginning. We want to hear what you have to say. The big question is, tell us about a music artist that maybe you watched in a documentary or maybe a biopic that, you maybe became a fan after seeing it. You were aware of them, but you didn't appreciate them. And then maybe you became, a really big fan after seeing it. Let's go to Jeremy Gover.
Biz Markie, Just a Friend. Just kidding. That's not real.
I was just going to say, did I miss that?
Yeah, I wish they had that. R.I.P. Biz. No, Talking Heads is mine. Stop Making Sense. Last year, A24, thanks to Jim Shirt. Shout out to Jim Shirt. Put it back in the theaters. Jim and I went, and I remember telling him, like, yeah, I know like 2 Talking Heads songs. One of them wasn't in it, by the way. So, I mean, it'll be fun because I love live music, but I don't really know what I'm getting into. I don't know why. Okay. And I remember just I think by song 3, I was kicking myself for not bringing my son. I was captivated by the whole thing. There were people dancing in our aisles. It was like a party. It was awesome. Like we were there at the, I think it's the Pantages, in LA, wherever they filmed it. It was like we were there and not in our local theater 40 years later.
Lighters going up.
Unbelievable. So for me, it was just, it was an eye-opening experience. I've had some others that I've thought, oh, that's kind of cool, and I'm not going to give those away because I'm going first, just in case I want to spoil somebody else's. But that one is the one that I literally left the theater on fire about. I was on fire for the Talking Heads. I purchased the Stop Making Sense vinyl immediately, like all those things. You're welcome, A24. So it was outstanding. So Stop Making Sense, A24's Talking Heads documentary. Not necessarily a documentary, I guess. It's more of a concert film.
But it does document a tour.
Yes. So that is my answer.
Very nice.
Jim, I hope that was not yours because you were really excited about that as well.
I was already ready to be blown away because I had seen it the first time around. Right. But I knew like, oh, this is going to be great. The one that surprised me is also fairly recently, because I think I remember watching it maybe over the holidays or something. But it was American Symphony about Jean-Baptiste and his wife and her battle with cancer and his rising stardom. And it was and it's real footage in real time, following this story. They were recording themselves and they had a crew and you completely forget about that because what you're seeing was so like genuine, honest and real and vulnerable that like I'd always thought, obviously this guy he's a great musician, but to then see like, okay, when he was starting to become like a thing where we all noticed Jean-Baptiste, right? That he was going through the worst parts of his life on the personal side of trying to, be there for, the love of your life who's going through cancer treatment. Just made me appreciate the man even more. And now, I cannot listen to his music and separate his struggle. So his music just became more powerful.
Bradford?
And now for something completely different.
You know what's really funny? I was going to say a joke right there, but then I was like, what if that's it? So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Go ahead.
Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
The Weird Al.
Wait, well, hold on a second. But is that the spirit of the question, though?
I love this.
It's a documentary.
Well, right.
Hey,
if it's the Weird Al Yankovic story, I appreciate the commitment of Weird Al and the marketing and everything of this. So I feel like telling a true story. The kookiness behind Weird Al. Guys, I couldn't think of any other answer. So you know what? I'm going to go out of left field with this one.
Okay.
Never saw that coming. Never, ever,
Gopher apparently did.
No, just right at the end. Right?
Right after I
completely
teased
different. I was like, I'm going to be Weird Al. I was like, if I say that and that's it, I'm going to be in trouble. But it turns you on to his music.
I was already onto it, but maybe appreciate the kookiness even more.
Okay.
Kind of like my,
because
my
it's like,
thing.
you know what? Because we were thinking we were going to get a Weird Al documentary, something about his story,
and hopefully one day we will.
Yeah, I mean, we were truly thinking we're going to get a little bit of insight, and then as it keeps progressing, we're going, this isn't real.
This is
full Weird Al being Weird Al, and I appreciated that so much about him, even though obviously it didn't give us what we expected,
right?
But it gave me something that appreciated his humor even more, and I couldn't think of anything else.
I love it.
That's a great answer.
All right, tell us one music artist that maybe when you see their documentary or whatever the Weird Al movie can be called, made you appreciate them more. Now it's time for us to remind you that you could be doing an unboxing video that we could watch of the Pharrell Williams Lego set Over the Moon. Look at that.
It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Now, again, we bought this during the screener, right? We put it on our Instagram, our socials and stuff. And after seeing the movie, I don't know what, an hour later, I really wanted to bust that open and build it. So, but that's your job. If you win it, we'll ship it to you for free, and you can unbox it for us and build it and let us know what the progress is.
And know the enormous sacrifice that Jeremy Gover went through to not open it.
That's right.
Because Lego ain't cheap.
No. We did get points, though.
Points.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.